We will be doing another Instagram live chat today with Jerry Ann from Celiac Mama. And hope everyone's having a great day. It's nice and bright and beautiful here in Michigan. I apologize for the reflection on my glasses. The only really good natural light I have in the house is in my office facing those windows. So, which will be interesting because next week we will be doing our interviews at 7 p.m. So it'll be interesting to see how I tackle that one. So, yes, so we are being joined by Jerry Ann. I'm going to invite her on now. Right. So I'll try to remember to sit up so that when we split screens, there we go. Hi, Jerry Ann, how are you?
Hi, good, how are you?
Good. So, how are things in Florida?
Things are okay, considering. It seems like the situation is improving here, and in terms of our life, and it's one day at a time. It's everybody's home together, appreciating the extra family time for sure, and working / homeschooling / momming it,
Right. Totally. My husband's a teacher, and so it's today was if the students don't check in, he has to call them. And he's a middle school teacher, so he has 130 kids. So he's
wow.
So having to touch base today with parents and that will be interesting. So for those who are just joining, I'm saying it Jerry Ann, correct, right?
Yes, you are.
Yep. So she and I met, I think originally at FabLogCon in Colorado. And which is the Food Allergy Bloggers Conference. That's it. FabLogCon is an analogy for that. And then she and I also spent some time earlier around this time last year, a little at the House Fair show. So yes, which is a great show and a lot of new and interesting products. I'm sure for you, if you're people who are watching, if you're unaware, Jerry Ann is the owner of Little GF Chefs. So those really cool baking kits, and I'm excited because I'm getting one this month. It looks like so much fun. So it was probably exciting for you to see we stopped at the Wilton booth and must have been really great to see so many products for you.
It was such a thrill for me. To see all the up-and-coming trends, different things in bakeware and whatnot was so exciting. So, it was really, really fun. Aside from learning about things I could share with people and thinking about things that I could potentially add to Little GF Chefs as cooking tools, which I did, it was also just so much fun.
It was. I'm definitely bummed that we missed it this year, but
I know.
Next year, hopefully we'll get a chance to go back. So explain a little bit. So you yourself do not have celiac disease, correct? It's your daughter.
Correct.
Right. So give me a little bit quick why celiac disease advocacy is really important to you, and we'll go from there.
So as you said, my daughter has celiac disease. She was diagnosed when she was 2, was sick for quite a while before, and we didn't know what was the matter for quite a while, but we did get the diagnosis. It's kind of turned our lives upside down, mostly because we were not educated at the time, and it requires a big lifestyle change. It's not just the food, and it required participation on everybody's behalf, really, in our family. And so, as I became more educated and as my daughter became of school age, and once I got to a point that I felt like I had amassed enough information, I wanted to help other people because, it's all well and good for someone to say, you need to go gluten-free, but not everybody knows what that means. And we certainly didn't understand the depths of the different places that gluten could hide. And we did not get that information from our doctors at the time. So I figured that while there are some doctors that are great about educating, there are many that are not. And so I wanted to try to speed up that learning curve for other families if I could. So.
Right. I remember even I've been diagnosed almost 20 years, and I still remember going to the dietitian. They're here's some paperwork. This is what you can and can't have. Have a nice day. But I'm okay, there's so much more to it than just what you can and can't.
And we didn't even get a handout. It was gluten-free. Figure it out. We were okay. Then fast forward.
Yeah, I've had people tell me, I've had followers tell me that their doctors are oh, I don't know anything, just go Google it. I'm and a doctor said that. I'm whoa, that's crazy.
I know. And I mean, on the one hand, they're not nutritionists, but on the other hand, nutrition is the medicine for this particular disease.
Right.
So it's tough.
They need to have a little bit more knowledge, definitely, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So being that you are a parent of a child with celiac disease, that's kind of why I wanted to talk to you today, and have you give us some tips on parenting a child with celiac disease and how to help them live successfully, because obviously it's a lot to live with and a lot, big change, and it's definitely social situations. But you yourself, and talking to you, know you've done some great things to empower your daughter to live with this disease. So I kind of want to touch base with you. So I will try to be quiet, and you can talk about your 5 tips for being a parent for a child with celiac disease.
Okay. And before I do, I should say that my son has gluten sensitivity.
Okay.
He is positive for both of the celiac genes and cannot handle gluten and has failed on challenges and things. But at this moment, he's not. So when I, talking about empowering and things like that, it's for both of them. Though she is the official celiac. So.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. So my first tip really does relate to what we were just talking about, and how, in my case, there was a lack of education. So I think the very first thing, whether someone is newly diagnosed or whether they don't feel that they are educated enough, is to get educated. If you can go to the doctor and get the information, beautiful. If you can go to a pediatric nutritionist and get information, beautiful. But if you can't, there are resources like the Celiac Disease Foundation, Beyond Celiac, Gluten Intolerance Group. I'm sure that I'm leaving someone out. Feel free to jump in here. Or, even reputable doctors like the Boston Children's Center. I know Peter Green, too, in New York. So,
and University, I always refer people to the University of Chicago Celiac Disease Center, because they have an awesome FAQ section. It seems like every question anyone's ever asked is this database. You can just look it up. It's really helpful.
That's great. So, yeah, I would say first and foremost, get educated on what it is, where it hides. Learn how to read labels, because, your job, especially with children, is to take care of the child. And unfortunately, in many situations, they're too little to understand how to do that for themselves, which means you become that label detective, as I call it.
Right.
So that would be first. And also in that same vein is to create a safe space for your child at home. I really believe no matter what the age is, I suppose super tiny toddler is a little bit different, that, there is a level of anxiety or nervousness of having to worry about everything you put in your mouth all day. When you go to school, you're worried about, whether it's art supplies or the little kids' hands or the toys or the food at lunch or sharing snacks. And it's really nice for them from a mental health perspective to have a safe place where they don't have to worry about that. And I know everybody's house is different. For us, we decided to make our house completely gluten-free. Completely.
Us too.
That doesn't work for everybody, and that's okay. Everybody has to make the decision that works for their family. But if you can't make your whole kitchen, your whole home gluten-free, then perhaps you can designate a space, a part of the kitchen, a separate pantry or separate shelves, something where, there is a space that the child doesn't have to, they know without having to worry. They can kind of loosen up a little bit at home. It's really important for them to not always have their guard up.
Do you ever use, again, yours is a dedicated gluten-free house, but have you ever used, I know there's Mabel's labels. So you can label your kids' stuff that's specifically gluten-free so that they know what to look for, and this has my safe sticker on it so I can enjoy this without having to worry.
That's a great idea. So on Celiac Mama, I have a newly diagnosed section where I have things like how to, share, create a gluten-free or share kitchen space. But Mabel's Labels is so smart. That is such a great idea, Margaret. Anything to make it easier for them so that, it's not an environment where they're always having to wonder and ask and worry and this and that.
Mm-hmm. So you talked about home. Now what about school?
That's my second tip. So my second tip is working with the school to create an optimal learning environment. And when I say that, I mean, listen, it's hard when your child has celiac disease or any food allergy. This is applicable as well. At home, you can have a sense of control. You know what they're getting. You know what's in their mouth. You know what's around them. And at school, it's hard. You have to let go and hope that the school, that they can do a good job. And the best way that you can help them do that is by educating them before the school year starts. And before I get into that, I said an optimal learning environment. An optimal learning environment is one where, the child isn't getting cross-contaminated or sick on a regular basis, where people understand what he or she has, and therefore he or she can just focus on the learning and the fun, which is what school is supposed to be about.
Right. Exactly.
So, my best advice for parents really is to meet with the school before the school year starts. Ask to find out who the teacher is. I know some schools don't like to provide that information, but usually when there's a medical reason involved, they will. You may not be able to meet with them until a few days before school starts, but that's okay. I recommend bringing in handouts. One thing I would say, remember when your child was diagnosed with celiac disease and you had to learn all this stuff. If there's a teacher or a school administration that has not dealt with that, why would we assume that they just know what it is? They don't.
That's an excellent point.
And you look at what 83% of people with celiac are not diagnosed. People are not educated on this topic. So you can help your child, and it'll give you a sense of control a little bit too in educating the school. So I always do a letter that explains what celiac disease is, what my child's symptoms are. Since every child seems to have different ones, we're not.
That's an excellent point.
What happens, and then what I want you to do if that happens. Do I want you to call me? Do they need to go home for the day? Do they need this? And then I also I include a list of art supplies that are safe so that they can have something easy to look at. I also know that, as much as I think my word is great, I, of course, want backup. I want them to see backup. So I'll include handouts from Beyond Celiac and Celiac Disease Foundation that explains what celiac disease is, that explains stuff about school, symptoms, because I want that credibility. I want them to see, no, this isn't me. I'm not making this up. You may not have heard of it, but this is what it is. This is what happens to my child. Here's some handouts that will help you in the classroom. And then, I would figure out what the best type of communication is for you and that teacher. Every teacher's different. Do they prefer emails? Do they prefer texting? What works best? Because when there are activities at school that they may not be sure, is this safe or not, you want them to be able to get in touch with you, and you want to make yourself available.
Right.
So
texting is a great idea then in those quick, I just got a quick question, and if you can text back, that's a really great idea.
Yeah, I've had several teachers that preferred that. I had one that really was more into email. Whatever it is, I want them to know, listen, I understand you have a classroom full of kids. You have a lot of kids that you have to think about and worry about throughout the day. What can I do to ease the burden on you? And that is be available. And if I can volunteer my time at class parties, if I can help out here or there, or if they're planning something and they don't know what art supply would be a good one for it, I can come up with it for them. Whatever I can do to kind of ease that for them.
So I'm glad you said art supplies. Some people may not realize that Play-Doh has wheat in it. A lot of people, I know when I've done stuff at church, people are like, really? I didn't even know that was in there. And again, if you don't live it, you just don't know.
How would they know? Right. Exactly.
And actually, I'm trying to think, I did a presentation for actually our church conference, our statewide church conference on food allergies and celiac disease and dietary restrictions. And I'm trying to remember, there was one really good site, I think it's Food Allergies for Kids, and it had this whole printout, double side of allergens and art craft projects, some that I didn't even realize. I'm that's a really great handout for people. So if I can remember it later, I'll have to share it where I found it from.
Yeah, definitely. I have a sheet on Celiac Mama too that has
great
art supplies that contain gluten and suggested replacements, which is great for parents as well as teachers. You can't always expect that the teacher's going to go and purchase it. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, but it gives an idea. But yeah, you're right. It's finger paint, it's Play-Doh, it's paper mache. As they get older, it's things that they might not think about.
Now you mentioned getting older, like now you said your daughter was 2, like how did you educate your daughter? I mean, it probably would be hard to explain to a 2-year-old exactly what was wrong, but I know we've talked about age appropriateness description. So if you can touch on that.
Absolutely. So that's really tip number 3. You know, you get educated yourself first. You educate the school, and you have to educate the child. And I know that that's touchy because you don't want to frighten the child by explaining things that, you know, are above their head or that might, you know, be confusing to them. You want to be careful about that, no question. So what I suggest is exactly what you said, being age appropriate. My daughter at 2, luckily she wasn't in school at 2, but at 3, she was starting preschool. And what made the most sense for us at that time was role playing. You know, sitting down, and I remember I would say, you know, Sophia, if somebody says that they want to share a snack with you, what are you going to say? And this is a small example, but I remember the things she said surprised me. I thought I had done my job and she knew what to say. And she said, well, I would ask my friend, is it gluten-free? Mm-hmm. Now, what 3-year-old has a clue what that means?
That's a great point.
They may say, I think so, you know, but and it might not be.
Right.
So it became, at that age, much more appropriate for her to just say, no, thank you. Mm-hmm. And then we tried again. And I said, would you like some of my snack? And she said, no. And I said, no. You know, we need to do this in a nice, kind, you know, polite way. So doing that and then having it flip and having her be the person and me being the other, teaching her like that went a very long way. There are also books. I remember there was Gluten-Free with Emily that I would read to her. She loved that one.
I actually have a post on my website of 10 children's books that deal with celiac disease. So,
I love that.
And there's some written by, there's a account called Everyone's Got Something, and it's written by 2 teenagers. Mm-hmm. So.
Oh, it's written by 2 teenagers?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I've seen a lot on their account, though. That's amazing.
Yeah, I'll have to send you the link so you can see. But there's I think Gluten-Free with Emily might be out of print. So that one may not be on my list, but it's hard to remember. Okay. But there's been a lot of great, a lot of really recent books added too. So a lot written by specifically by children themselves. Some's written by older people. There's one written by like a doctor, but intended. I mean, it's definitely a children's book. It's picture book, but and then whatever that doctor is, like he's got like a children's book on diabetes and kidney disease. It's all geared towards children, and there's a celiac disease one.
Great.
So,
that's great.
So, yeah.
I mean, just like kids learn all kinds of things, like they learn numbers and read all different things from reading. That's a perfect one for little kids. Just read first and make sure it has the type of dialogue you want. If it's too intense, if it's talking about things that you don't want, you know, put it on the bookshelf for when they're older. But yeah, I mean, if they're much older than that, you're not necessarily going to need to role play. You can just have a heart to heart and talk about, you know, different situations that will come up and how to handle it. A big one also was how, you know, in a classroom, for example, the teacher is in charge, and kids learn that at a very young age. So I remember that was a tough one. If there was a snack or if there was an art supply or something coming around and she wasn't sure, she was afraid. Not because her teacher wasn't wonderful. She was wonderful. But because, you know, in my daughter's head, you don't question the teacher. You can't do that. So then I brought her in before school started one day. I told the teacher in advance, and I said, like, there was something about, you know, needing extra time to go to the bathroom sometimes, little other things that come up and being afraid. And I remember I sat there and I said, you know, to the teacher, I said, you know, if Sophia had something like this, you know, and I gave a situation, I said, what would you say? What would you tell her to do? She said, I would tell her to come right up to me and tell me, or raise her hand, you know, whatever it is to help foster that comfort level of communicating for yourself or for your child.
And I love, and I think that's really important, what you said, go before class. Because I have a degree in education myself, and my husband's a teacher. do it on a one-to-one basis. Don't like try to come in and make a scene in front of the other kids or other parents or whatever. Like, I know if I mess up, I want someone to, I'm not even saying the teacher messed up, but in general, like if something's wrong, I want someone to come to me privately and quietly so we can have a conversation and learn. So I think that's really a great point to, and again, being an educator and my husband, like we all want to help your kid. We do. I don't think there's really too many teachers out there that just want to be difficult. And it is overwhelming and it's a lot to keep track of, your child has celiac, but somebody else has type 1 and someone else has Crohn's. And my husband, this school year between two buildings, they had 8 kids with type 1 diabetes, so much so they had to have their own nurse at the school to do glucose checks through the day and everything else. So, we're all trying and, we would want someone to be kind and polite to us. And so we have to remember to do that, to other people as well.
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, if you treat someone with respect, they're going to do more for your child. They just are. Or for you, they're going to communicate more. If you make it difficult, it's going to make the relationship more difficult. And you don't want that. That doesn't help your child,
Right. Someone was just saying here that they think your role-playing idea is a great thing. Their child is, they're just talking with their 3.5-year-old. So thank you, she's saying, about this. That's a great idea. So she's really thankful.
It was a big help with snack sharing, especially because I think when kids are real little, that's kind of how they make friends. Hey, you want
exactly
a snack? That's one of the ways. So how do you say no but still get to be their friend? How do you say no without making them feel like,
right. And in general, like, we teach our kids it's polite to share, and to share. I mean, we especially with you and, you got a daughter and a son and you want your daughter to share with your son, but then they go to school and they're told, oh, but don't share here and don't let anyone share with you. And like, but wait a minute, that doesn't jive with the other stuff you're telling me. And it's that disconnect. You're right.
It's tricky. It's tricky, but with dialogue and open communication with your child, you will get there. It's tricky when they're little, for sure.
Yep. So that was your third tip. What's your fourth tip?
Mm-hmm. So my fourth tip is, celiac disease is not just about the food.
Right.
We talked a little bit about, art supplies, and I remember it's in like baby soap and things like that, but I don't mean that. It's not just about the food. It's not just about the products that you're avoiding. It's a lifestyle change. And when I think as adults, we learn to appreciate each other's differences. But when we're little, we just want to fit in. We just want to be like our friends, right?
I'm an adult and I still feel that way.
Sure. I'm 41. Same. I have those moments as well. Absolutely. But so to realize that you're different than the other kids, no matter what the young age is, as we're all still developing self-confidence and self-esteem, that's hard. The celebrations in the classroom, or if the classroom curriculum has some food lessons in there, going to the birthday parties and all of that, there's a lot of reminders that you're different, right? And it can fester in a child. And to a degree, it will be there. But so my next tip is really addressing that feeling different head on with your child. Having that open communication and reminding them, just like you said, the name of the book, Everyone's Got Something. Everyone is different in different ways. Like, think about, yes, you can't eat the same things as some of those kids, but what about, I don't know, what about Barbara? Does she wear glasses? Oh, so she wears glasses. What about, Timmy? Is he taller than everybody else? And this one's shorter? We all come in different shapes and sizes. We all have different things. Some people are, better at math or better at reading. Or, you have to look at a lot of those things and keep reminding them. And then, as you hear about some things that happened at school, or someone came in, I don't know, with, a different food allergy or whatever it is, I always just bring it up and I say, oh, so they have something different too.
Right.
What do you think about that? Do you still think they're a good friend? Do you still think that they're really fun to hang out with? And
right.
Just you just got to keep on putting it in there, because it's okay. I mean, I remember there was an amazing, I was so excited, and my daughter doesn't watch Daniel Tiger anymore, but she used to.
There was the food allergy song, because Daniel Tiger is allergic to
peaches.
Kiwi?
It was peaches.
Peaches, yes.
Mm-hmm. And I remember I was so excited. She was obsessed with the show, and I kind of just watched her. We watched it 3. She's like, I want to watch it again. I want to watch it again. And for 3 days in a row, because she saw that other people have different things too, and that that's okay. Yeah. So that would be a big one. And also sometimes, you know, just in terms of the open communication, if there's something at school, you know, that ended up being a huge, you know, food-related celebration that maybe I didn't know about in time, or maybe wasn't pre-planned, she's a little bummed about it. Well, I'm going to do something at home when we get home. It's going to be spectacular. I don't know what it is. I mean, if it's Valentine's Day and the kids are handing out Valentine's, am I going to have Valentine's candy at home just in case the others isn't safe? 100%, you know? Right.
And Emily was just saying that she feels the same, like her daughter's dealing with the same struggle. Like, I don't want to be different, and doing the exact same thing. She said, like, she makes sure to have special treats for her. So, and she says it's, you know, and she so agrees in making sure that we know everyone's different, and that's okay, and it's okay to be unique. So you're definitely speaking on what other people are feeling right now. So I'm so glad again that we're able to talk to you, Jerry Ann, today about these great tips. That was number 4. So what's number 5? Which I think is, I really think of too because of your business, which is so perfect.
So number 5 is to get in the kitchen with your kids. Now, I get it. If they're 2, can they cook you a meal? No. If they're 3 or 4, can they do it by themselves? 5? No. But they can help. And there's several reasons that that's really important. You know, number 1, it helps them establish a positive relationship with food. Having celiac disease or other medically necessary dietary restrictions or food allergies, there is correlation with eating disorders later.
Absolutely.
And so it starts in the beginning. You know, when you start to pay attention to everything that you put in your mouth to a degree as a little person, you can start to be afraid of food. I saw that with my daughter at one point. She was afraid. She'd be home and there'd be something that, you know, clearly wasn't gluten-free, and I could see she was starting to get confused. Is safe or not safe? Maybe I just won't eat it. If it's new and I haven't had it, I'd rather just not. And so getting her in the kitchen with me, and for us it was baking, because cooking on the stove, I was worried about burning and things like that. She started to develop a more positive relationship with food. She also started to see, hey, look how cool my food looks. I guess I have special treats too, you know? So, and then she started, as she was making it and would feel proud of herself, I saw her self-confidence start to improve. And then same thing with learning that she didn't have to live without. That is key. Is she different than everybody? Yes. Can she have gluten? I mean, no. But that doesn't mean she has to live without. She doesn't have to live without, you know, cookies or sandwich bread or muffins or
brownies
or
Sweet Street Desserts just joined, and they're a nationwide company, and they have these amazing, delicious, really dark chocolate gluten-free brownies. You can get them at Barnes & Noble. And they have Barnes & Noble has the gluten-free Rice Krispie treats. Those are also Sweet Streets.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's awesome. Awesome, because they always, I see like on our receipts, they'll say, you know, go get a cookie at the register, and we're like, well, we can't. Right. So and I don't know. I don't know if the cookie, and I don't know if the free cookie would apply, because Sweet Streets, well, they do have a new cookie now, but I think it has oats in it, which I always tell people to be, you know, cautious of. Yeah. But I definitely know the Rice Krispie treats are at Barnes & Noble. Awesome. Awesome. So I mean, getting them in the kitchen is very empowering for them. So I would definitely encourage that, and especially when you know it's birthday party season and there's a bunch of them, I always make sure I have some baking ingredients at home, because if we go to a party, sometimes you can see them like, I don't know what happened. It used to be you'd go to a birthday party and there'd be like one cake, and now you go, it's like a wedding. There's a dessert station. You've got
it's like parents have like gone
you've got
crazy.
Cakes. You've got it's just like, how do you bring your celiac child and look at that and have them not be like, like, of course. So, we have an open dialogue where I try to talk to the parent, the mom or dad in advance.
Right.
So we can bring similar stuff. But once in a while, it's a bummer. So that's a perfect time after that. Like, get them in, get messy, be silly, show them that, they're okay and that life is fun and that they can do it too. In fact, maybe we can make something even better. So.
Right. And I obviously bake a lot of stuff. And sometimes my husband and other friends are like, this is the best of whatever I've had ever. Not just gluten-free, but like ever. And I'm like, I have an image on my... I have an image on my blog that's like the best things in life are gluten-free, like to remind people, like, I always get frustrated, like, oh, gluten-free tastes awful. I'm like, well, you've obviously never eaten my cooking, and so, listen, I will cook for you.
You could say that about any bad recipe in any type of food, whether it's full of gluten, gluten-free, whatever it is, but you find the good ones. And there's no way anybody can say gluten-free is not as good, if not better. It's amazing. And your recipes are fabulous. So.
Oh, well, thank you.
They are.
Did you see my pupusas? I got to take pictures of them again, but I made homemade pupusas and they're so good. Like, I love the Trace Latin Foods ones, but they're not hard to make, but they're like tamales. They're like time intensive, but they're really good. So they're like kind of like a Hot Pocket, but Latin American kind of flavor. So
I have to check that out. Awesome.
Yep. So I know I posted some about our talking on my Facebook page, and somebody said, how do you talk to a child who's asymptomatic and trying to keep them on top of following their diet? Any tips on that?
That's such a good question. It's a lot tougher to keep them on a gluten-free diet when they're asymptomatic, because they don't see the direct consequence right after something. So that's trickier. What I would say, and again, it's going to go back to, age appropriateness. Right. But I would give them an example. I like to reference a sunburn. You go out in the sun and you're having an amazing time and you're not wearing sunscreen and you have no idea that you're getting scorched. Right. That you're getting an awful sunburn. And not only are you damaging your skin and getting that sunburn then, and maybe you have, several days of peeling and whatnot, but, with an asymptomatic person, they might not, they don't even have an initial reaction that they can necessarily feel. But if you look at sun, you don't feel it, you get the sunburn. Over time, if you continue to not wear sunscreen, you can have wrinkles or dark spots or
skin cancer.
Skin cancer, right. So that's why I said age appropriate, because when they're little, you don't want to go into that. As they become teenagers and they understand more about these things, and they might need more of a push to stay on the gluten-free diet, that just because you can't see something doesn't mean that it's not wreaking havoc inside. And that endoscopy and the, what it was like before they went gluten-free helps with that too. So.
Thank you. That's an excellent answer. So, again, for people who are just chiming in, we're talking to Jerry Ann. She is the brainchild behind the Celiac Mama website and also Little GF Chef. So can you tell us a little bit more about Little GF Chefs and how that came about?
So that came about almost by accident, really. With my daughter, I'm always, every phase of childhood brings new challenges and new positives, of course, too. And when I saw that, her self-confidence was really just taking a hit. And she really felt bad about feeling different. She was having some fears of foods and things like that. As we got her in the kitchen more and more, I saw it have a tremendous impact on her. And so for the same reason that I started Celiac Mama, to help other families, navigate gluten-free living, I said, hold on a second. I know we're not the only ones that are struggling with this. The mental health side of having celiac disease is very real. And at least in our experience, I don't see that many resources out there. And so when I saw that this was a healthy and fun way to address the mental health side and to help the children feel empowered, have a sense of control over something and have fun, I mean, I thought, okay, let's do this. Let's see what happens. So that's why we started Little GF Chefs. It was originally just going to be gluten-free and dairy-free because my daughter also has a dairy allergy. But people reached out and they said, well, you know, my son has a peanut allergy, or, you know, my child is allergic to tree nuts. And I thought to myself, my child feels left out. I'm not going to start a company and leave other kids out. I'm just not going to do it. Yeah. And I know that they are dealing with many of the same types of issues that my daughter is facing. So right before launch, I thought about it and I said, you know what? No, we're stripping everything. So every recipe I had ready, I redid all of it.
Wow.
Sure. Well, I mean, I wanted to, you know, I was on a mission to help other families. And, you know, so that's what we did. So it's top-aid free, it's sesame free, it's gluten-free, of course, artificial dye-free, as I know many of my followers, you know, have children that have issues with that as well. I just wanted to make it accessible for as many kids as possible.
So I know, so this month coming out is the s'mores kit, which is really exciting and a really cool craft. What are some of the other kits? Because I know some of them you can still order, even though they're past months. So what are some of the other ones that you've done?
So let's see. I can tell you what's up in the store right now. We have cookie dough hearts, which is it's like a no-bake, but has a little bit of baking in it. We have cake pops, celebration cake pops. We have a gummy bears kit for anyone that like literally has nothing in their pantry right now. If you've got water, you can make those. We have rainbow donuts. That one's been really, really popular, really fun. And then we have the s'mores. Let's see. I think, can you keep a secret? I think that we are about to bring back a classic, one of the favorites from last year in time for, well, I mean, people have a lot more time at home right now, and Father's Day is coming up, so we're going to bring back our cinnamon roll kit. I know. I'm very excited about that one. I mean, they're all really fun. And then as it gets, you know, we did a watercolor cookies kit for Easter and spring. We do a gingerbread house in December. Something always Thanksgiving themed. We try to keep it, you know, with the seasons as they go. So
right, great. And what is does the price always the same, or does it kind of vary depending on the kit?
It varies. So usually they are $35 if you're going to buy it individually, because some people don't want to be subscribers. They just want to buy the kits that they want when they want, and that's fine. So those are $35, with the exception of the s'mores kit. It's about $3 more, and that's because we added a craft this time. Because we thought let's bring some more fun at home because people had all this time. Plus, for the s'mores kit, we are giving 10% of all of our sales to the Food Equality Initiative. And for those of you that don't know what that is, they are, I mean, you're familiar that there are many children out there that are not able to access food right now because of the pandemic.
Poverty.
And schools being closed and whatnot. So and I hope I get this figure right, of the 60,000 food pantries across America, only 4 of them serve people with celiac disease and food allergies, which for me, it was like mind blown. I had no idea. So the Food Equality Initiative, they serve those communities. So we are giving money to them so that they can therefore, you know, have meals and things that they can provide to the families. They also do a lot of advocacy work.
That's awesome. You're so awesome.
Oh, well, we got to do our part, right? I mean, we're all in this together. We hear that, and I mean it. I mean, to hear about children not being able to get food, that's heartbreaking. And safe food, I mean.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Oh,
but subscribers, I should say. Subscribers, it's a little bit less expensive. So each kit, it's like $32. So like for this time, it went up $6.50. I didn't charge the subscribers anything more. It was like bonus, surprise, here you go. So, yeah.
Well, any other things that you'd like to chat about real quick? I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I thank you for all the tips that you've shared, and I will try to upload this to YouTube so you can share it with your followers and people will have it to reference again in the future.
Great. I suppose the only other thing that I would say is if you know someone that's newly diagnosed, of course, you have a ton of resources on your site. I have resources, free resources on Celiac Mama, and I also have a section about school. And I know, nobody knows exactly when it's going to reopen and all of that, but knowledge is power. I have a handout that you can print out. It's going back to school guide. Again, it's free. Has handouts you can bring to the school and whatnot. So it's there for you. That's why I made it. So if you need it, or if you know somebody that will, please go get it.
Yeah. And later this month, do you know Kristen Osborne? Did you meet her at FabLogCon?
I sure did.
Yeah, so I'll be interviewing her later this month, and we'll specifically talk about like 504s and all the legal side, because she's so good at that specific thing.
She is. Yeah. There's a model 504 plan in the guide that I have, but she is the expert. That's going to be great. So everybody that is looking for information, that should definitely tune in. So.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for your time, and I'm glad that you're doing well, and miss you, and Amanda too. Also, Amanda, people eat at our table, also lives in Florida, so we all kind of talk to each other, and so yeah, just glad to know that your family is doing well. And again, thank you so much for your time today, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Yeah. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye. So thank you again for everyone who checked in, Emily and Amy and a few others. So I will end up downloading this to my screen recorder on my laptop, and it will get uploaded to YouTube. It'll still have all these comments in front, unfortunately, but at least you'll be able to listen. So again, on Friday, we will be checking in with Heather Burson, who is the owner of Third Coast Bakeries in Traverse City, and she started that bakery because her husband had to start eating gluten-free. So we're going to be talking about what it's like to be the spouse of someone that has celiac disease or a gluten restriction, and how that kind of turns your life upside down and how you move forward in that situation. So thank you to everyone again for joining the show today, and we'll see you Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Talk to you later. Bye.